Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I am Leslie Zaks, 2NDGEAR's E-Rate and Government Contracts Manager. I'm joined today by Holly Davis, CEO of Complement Inc. Holly will be sharing her expertise in government funding and ECF opportunities. So
Hi,
today we
Leslie.
are here. Hi, Holly. So glad you could join us.
Glad to be here.
So today we are here to learn more about the Emergency Connectivity Fund program. I'm sure you all have heard quite a bit about it. This program provides funding for emergency connectivity and devices for schools and libraries. So what does that mean? In general terms, and we'll get into some more detail as Holly and I kind of run through some things, but what does that mean for you? If a student or faculty device is necessary to purchase or lease for the 2021-2022 school year, then it qualifies for ECF funding. So that's a snippet of information. For those of you that are familiar with E-Rate, which I'm sure many of you are, this program is going to be managed by USAC, utilizing many of the standard tools that fit within the E-Rate program. So we just learned yesterday that the application window for the ECF funds opens up, for the application part of it, opens up on June 29th, so coming up in another couple of weeks. So that's a little brief overview. I'd like to kind of get started. Holly is an expert in this field, and I'd like to get started with some questions that I personally have for Holly that hopefully will answer some questions for you too. So, Holly, what is the American Rescue Plan ECF program, and why is it being managed by E-Rate?
Great question. So first, everybody has to understand that, there's been multiple iterations of pandemic stimulus funding that have come out there. But the American Rescue Plan that was just passed here in this March is in the trillions of dollars. It's $1.9 trillion that was made available for various different areas of our government and to support not only businesses, but schools, especially during the pandemic, and trying to figure out how to go back to school, but also go back to school in some of these more hybrid situations where you have students that won't ever return to the classroom. But the American Rescue Plan and the way it was, Leslie, the way that they decided to manage it, or what they were going to do, is they slated a bucket of money and they called it Emergency Connectivity Fund. So a lot of times while you're out there looking at this program, you're going to see that acronym for ECF. And they did something different with this pandemic stimulus. And Leslie, I know we've talked about this, quite extensively because of all the billions and now trillions of dollars that are out there to help support technology and the remote learning initiatives, which, as you and I know, before it was more like the homework gap, right? Those underserved communities that didn't have connectivity or the broadband to get in an environment where they can do remote learning from their home or somewhere in the community. But then there's also some areas where it's just not possible to get connectivity to communities because of maybe the lay of the land. But one thing that was for sure is that they knew they needed to add more funding, but they needed to find a way to get it to the schools in a format in which they were familiar with. And that touches on what you said, Leslie, about the E-Rate program, and USAC actually is managing this bucket of money. Unlike the other buckets of money that were actually managed or done through a grant program through the Department of Education in every state. So I think, and I'm sure you would agree, Leslie, that having the funding this time around managed under USAC is an area or a place that the E-Rate program is a familiar area, and a lot of the schools already know how to go and get their funding and not have to work through a grant program.
Yes, I was just going to say that's key right there, because the schools are familiar with E-Rate funding and that bucket of money that, it just kind of makes sense that this extra bucket of money through ECF would fall under the same leadership, so to speak. So Who's eligible to apply for the funding?
Yeah, so all of the schools, as long as the schools that are in the US, as long as they're not a non-for-profit and they're not someone who offers like scholarships. So you're probably, everything I just said, you're like, well, that's kind of broad, but
Mm-hmm.
it's basically schools, libraries, and charter schools are included. There are some limited private schools because there are private schools out there that actually provide scholarships and do receive special funding from the government for assistance for students to attend. But basically, if you think about any school out there that is it's not for profit, is going to be able to participate in this program.
Okay. Okay. So, in speaking of E-rate managing it, do you feel like the filing process will be the same as the filing process for traditional E-rate deals?
Yeah, well, it's going to be in alignment to some degree, but they're skipping one of the major steps. So they're not going to have a 470 competitive bidding process. So that's probably the biggest one. So on that date you mentioned, at the end of this month, on June 29th, they will open the window for 45 days for schools to go and request by filing a 471 inside EPC, which is the portal that all funding requests for E-rate have traditionally been asked for. They will actually go and file a request, a 471, which usually is the second step in the process. But they've removed competitive bidding because they want to get this funding out there quickly. And they
Okay,
are
so
going to be able to, yes,
that's really a key factor for that's a big factor, removing the competitive bidding.
yes, it's huge. And then the other things that are going to be the same is they're still going to do the invoicing inside the portal. They'll be doing the funding, they'll do PIA review, all of those different components that are naturally a part of the OG or the original E-rate program.
Original. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, are going to be a part
Okay.
of this process.
That is very interesting. So again, just to confirm, the window opens June 29th and it is for 45 days. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So you mentioned that the program pays for remote learning supportive technology. What is specifically eligible under that? And can schools replace outdated devices, or are they only able to supply devices for those students or faculty that currently doesn't have them?
Great question.
That's kind of a two-pronged,
Yeah.
sort of a two-pronged question.
No, but those are really good questions. And I'm actually, the second part of your question, I'm receiving so many questions on a daily basis, from, like your organization, but also the schools. They have a lot of
Sure.
questions about this. So let's first touch on that first part of the question. So the program is going to cover anything that is an endpoint. Now, what is an endpoint? Endpoint is that device, tablet, laptop, Chromebook, that device that actually sits in front of a student or faculty, staff member, teacher that actually are working to integrate and do the collaboration for the schoolwork. There are things that are
Okay.
not part of that, which are no phones and no desktops, okay? The other part of it is broadband connectivity. So any area where there's currently no connectivity, or if there is a need for like outdoor wireless access points, or actually providing connectivity in a community center in collaboration with the schools, so that there is a remote or an area like maybe a large parking lot that you need wireless connectivity. And then of course you need modems and routers to make that happen. So
Right.
that's the technology for that first part of your question to kind of help you understand. But even the tablet or the Chromebook, the laptop, whatever that device is that that student or teacher is using, they did put limits to it. So you can only
Okay.
spend up to $400 for that device, but you're not limited if you go over. So if you go over that amount that they're allocating, all they do is just, that is going to be the non-eligible part that the school will have to pay for themselves.
Okay. Okay. That's good to know. That's good
Yeah.
to know.
Now, your second part, if you don't mind,
yeah.
I'll just answer that real quick. The second part of
Yeah.
your question was about the technology. Does it have to be technology, I guess, that they previously purchased? Right now, this immediate window, the first 45 days, is not for any previous purchases. So say you bought a bunch of laptops last year, you are going to have to wait to re-ask for that money if they have a second window after the 45 days. So they're going to wait to see if there's any money left to let people do retroactive request. Now, to that point though, Leslie, I don't want any confusion here. If you
Mhm.
have laptops that you need to purchase, and I'm using laptops as an example, that are for this school year, so that when a school year is July 1st of this year, 2021 to 2022, those devices that you need to purchase and to use, say, i.e., you are doing a lease for your equipment you need this year, you would then be able to use ECF to help you acquire what you need. So the
Okay.
funding for this window is specifically for this next school year that starts on July 1st.
Okay. Okay. So the sequence, it's good to know the sequence of each window opening of funding. So thanks for all of that information. A couple of other questions that I do have for you is USAC applying the same free and school lunch program, like the traditional E-rate to allocate the funding?
No, and what's actually very exciting about what they're doing, one, they, took away competitive bidding requirement because they want everybody to go out and ask for what they need to get ready for the school year. Two, right, they're doing a 45-day window. They want to turn this around quickly. Well, the other part of it is they've removed the free and school lunch program requirements. So typically, if you were a school and you had to pay a percentage of that technology cost to have your skin in the game with the government funding the other portion, they're actually paying 100% of the request for the technology as long as they are eligible items, which we covered in our previous question.
Okay. Okay. That is good information. It's a lot of information to digest, but like I said, little by little, understanding the each window opening and opportunity is definitely good to know. Can you think of anything else that you would like to cover? I mean,
Yes.
this program is a fantastic way for our schools in the United States to truly become a country who has all their students in a one-to-one learning environment. So for me at 2NDGEAR, in closing, is there anything you would like to add that would help a school in making a decision on their technology needs or who they would be able to purchase from?
Yeah. So, I just really encourage schools to work with organizations like you guys. You guys are experts in E-rate. You have all the government contract vehicles that you need to help have that permission to win and to work with those schools and libraries. But you also have a very talented sales organization that's very much aware of the E-rate program. And of course, because they have you there to help manage the program from an invoicing and also an understanding of the program. So I really
Yes.
encourage schools to work with organizations such as yourself, because it'll help y'all get through the process smoothly, not have any hiccups with the PIA reviewers. That means the schools and libraries get their funding faster, which I know, Leslie, you don't like it anytime it comes up that there's some red flags or questions. So the good news
Right.
is you know how to navigate all of that.
Yes, definitely, definitely. Yeah, we've been involved in the E-rate program, and for many years, and I'm certainly familiar with transacting deals, and we are have product available and ready, and a wonderful sales staff to accommodate all of the customers that we have out there. So Holly, thank you so much for joining us on our podcast today. To everyone out there, if you enjoyed today's topic, please stay tuned for our next podcast where we're going to bring you updates on other pandemic funding opportunities. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Holly.